And ladies and gentlemen, it's another episode, another chronicle of the Roto Hackers podcast. My name is AJ Herschel, also known as The Kid. And, okay, let me make sure I get this right. Okay, over there, you've got the man, the myth, Judah Buddha. And over there, you've got the legend, that is Jared. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Never been more mediocre. I'm actually doing great. I'm loving this the quarantine or whatever you want to call it.
We're locked in. How about you, Jared?
I guess.
Yeah, not so much loving it. I know people that have lost jobs, and it's not ideal.
Yeah. Well, despite the world shutting down, the NFL marches on, and so do we, apparently.
I was thinking the NFL might be the only real sports. I don't know, like only real sports to be this year.
Yeah,
fully.
Mm-hmm.
Or
hopefully, hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I hope that by then, I think that's like almost best case scenario, but I'm hoping, but we'll have to have like some sort of, real system in place by then, because, at least maybe to where they can do it without crowds if they have to, or something. But it's still, you think about like, if it was just bare personnel, you've got like a 53-man roster on each side, dozens of coaches, dozens of stadium personnel. Like even if you're just talking like security and stuff like that, referees, you're still talking a couple hundred people, with half of them like just rubbing all over each other, for like 3 hours.
Yeah.
So they'll have to, which NBA players haven't had any trouble getting tested, so maybe they can do that with NFL players too. So maybe I'm hoping the NFL season, of course, that's like lower, as hard as it is to say, or hard as it is to imagine, like now, like that's like lower on my priority list of things I want to happen. But yeah, I want the NFL season to happen.
Yeah. Well, anyway, even though we're all disappointed about everything getting shut down, and unfortunately, my beloved XFL was shut down as well, we still have free agency to get us through, though.
We hardly knew you.
That's interesting. Well, at least we have free agency, and that's something to talk about. So I'm very curious, what was the craziest thing you guys saw this week for free agency? We've talked about Brady, we've talked about Hopkins, but there was still some moves coming off of Wednesday to today. So what did you guys see that surprised you the most?
I think the Manny Stewart one thing we didn't talk about last week was we forgot to mention old No Diggity No Doubt.
Yeah,
I thought about that too. Yeah.
That one was surprising to me. But the Manny Stewart one that's interesting. Apparently that's all the sports talkers want to talk about. It's like all over the place. Manny Stewart.
Now wait. Are you talking about, okay.
Sanders, okay. Emmanuel Sanders.
I'm processing this for a second. Like Manny Stewart. Okay,
what? Where did I get Stewart?
Where did I miss this? I don't know.
You have to put it through the translator in the head.
True.
No, he's a new player, and no. So Emmanuel Sanders. I don't know how I was saying Stewart. I'm trying to do 100 things at one time.
I literally looked up Manny Stewart to figure out who that is. It didn't come up.
Yeah, Emmanuel Sanders going with the Saints is pretty interesting.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder. I was just going to say it just makes me wonder. Like people are already putting Michael Thomas like. Slotting him in as like maybe the second, third overall pick of the draft. Like that feels way too high for me, with him coming off a career high with Breeze aging and not knowing, if he's going to break down. Now they're going to have a different backup quarterback if something did happen to Breeze, and you've got Emmanuel Sanders coming in to potentially take away some targets. So I don't know if I want to go that high on Michael Thomas.
I actually feel opposite. I feel like Manny coming in is really going to help Thomas.
How could he get more balls than he's already getting?
Well, he'll be more open when he gets them.
I think this helps more in like the Saints' long run, like Super Bowl end goal, more than it does fantasy wise, because it makes sense as a team perspective to take some of that weight off Thomas, because literally no one else was catching footballs for most of the year.
Yeah.
But now you've got Emmanuel Sanders coming in, and either way, he's still going to take some of that load off, because there's no way Thomas gets his load from last year and Sanders gets catches. So I feel like this is more of a move to like share, I guess, the burden between Thomas and Sanders to ease up and get a deeper playoff run next year. I think that's more of what it is.
Makes sense.
The other one that I got confused by your Manny Stewart bit. We didn't talk about Stefon Diggs, did we? Did you mention him when you were talking a second ago?
Yeah, I was saying, no diggity when I was talking about no diggity.
Okay, right. But again, like I'm trying to like translate like diggity Manny Stewart. It's like a Simpsons. I'm like trying to translate Chief Wiggins over here. So what were your thoughts on Diggs to Buffalo?
For me, I think I love it for my main man John Brown. It's going to open him up more. I mean, it's going to open him up more, but it's also I think it's really good for Diggs. I feel like Diggs and it's interesting because Diggs and Brown are a lot alike in many ways.
Yeah.
So whereas Diggs before had Thielen taken a lot of the the short dump offs or the shorter mid to midfield passes, and he was out there for the home runs. I wonder if he'll get a lot more in the slot. He'll get, because he actually does really well when it comes to, I mean, his route tree is enormous, and he's just so good at breaking free, getting space, that I think with him having a deep threat instead of being the deep threat, you could see a real big uptick for him, or at least more consistency for him. That's my initial thought.
Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to be. Because I think there's pros and cons to both of those situations. Oh, well, no. I take that back. Over last season, well, I don't know. He eventually did kind of come on last season. He did nothing for a while, and then he started blowing up for a while. I think there's got to be more consistency in Buffalo than what he had in Minnesota. He'll be just the unquestioned number one wide receiver. So, and Josh Allen's got a big arm. He can throw the ball down the field. That suits him better. So, yeah, it is sort of weird because he and Sanders, I'm sorry, not Sanders, Brown.
Talking about Manny Sanders?
I'm talking about Manny Sanders.
Stewart?
Yeah, Manny Stewart. He's gonna be their first round draft pick. He's comes out of a little unknown school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a better situation for Diggs. Allen improves each year as a passer. He's got the bigger arm to throw the ball downfield. I think it'll be a better situation for him, I guess, because like last year, you just didn't know. Like Diggs started off terrible for them, and then Thielen, of course, Thielen later got hurt, but then Thielen was only getting, went from like getting 10, 12, 15 balls a game the year before to 4 or 5 or 2 last year. So Minnesota's just going to, they're going to be a run first team with Dalvin Cook, or if he's hurt the person behind him, as they re-upped Cousins. They're just never going to be a pass first team. So I like Diggs to the Bills. I don't think it's going to be a world of difference, but overall, probably some more consistency.
I think this helps the Bills a lot more than it does Diggs too, because John Brown and who else did you have last year? And now you've got solid, probably the best wide receiver 2 in the entire NFL. That shouldn't even be a wide receiver 2. So I think this helps the Bills exponentially as well.
So those were the two, like the two, I guess, big receiver moves. Mm-hmm. And I think now, because I'm just really eager to hear this, before we get to any other positions, I want to know, how excited are you about Nick Foles to the Bears? Was this everything you hoped for? Was it like Cam, Jameis, Andy Dalton, Nick Foles? That was our target all along.
Okay. I'm okay with it. I'm cool with it. Like, I don't know if there was a specifically right answer to the Bears free agency. Honestly, I was like, just get someone, please. But getting Foles is solid. I mean, he worked with Nagy in Kansas City for a year. He was, what's his name? Alex Smith. Alex Smith's backup in like 2016, I think. So, I mean, it's a solid bring-in. They put him in. I think he works well when he's in a good offense, i.e. Philadelphia, and not so much when the offense doesn't fit his play style, i.e. Jacksonville and St. Louis. So I think if they implement him well on the offense, it could be good.
So
I think it could work.
Now tell me what you think the plan is. Do you think the plan is A, that they've brought him in to be the starter? Do you think it's B, that they've brought him in to compete with Trubisky? Or C, we know, like, he's gonna be the backup, the backup,
quote unquote,
but they're gonna wait until Mitch Trubisky has an inevitable Mitch Trubisky game, which will be week 1, and then that's their excuse for putting Foles in then.
As much as I want to say I hope it's going to be a competition, there's something that's telling me it's going to be C. There's just something telling me that. I mean, Ryan Pace is an enigma to me. He says in the offseason, Trubisky's our guy, and then he talks with 4 different quarterbacks in the first 2 days of free agency. And I just don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, more than likely it'll probably be a quarterback battle through the offseason, if we have an offseason, for crying out loud. But I'm just so worried that they actually are going to go with Trubisky until Trubisky doesn't play well. And I mean, if it goes well, it goes well. Yeah. But
could they get anything for Trubisky if they were thought of trading him?
Not right now.
I mean, he's a young quarterback. You would have to trade him to someone. Well, like what I said before was, I could almost see him being like someone taking him as like a Taysom Hill, Taysom Hill type role player. You would either have to find a situation like that, because I mean, he's on his rookie deal, so he would be cheap.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a situation where people are like, like where the Rams just had to end up releasing Todd Gurley because no one wanted to take on that money. But I think it would either have to be a situation like that, or, I mean, he's already with a guy who fancies himself an expert play caller who could develop a young quarterback, and we see how that's going. Unless you could, unless there's someone else out there who thinks, oh, I see something in Mitch Trubisky, I can turn him into a star or into a solid player. But I mean, who's that going to be? It doesn't fit Belichick's mold. So who else? Like I said, if the Saints had lost Mitch Trubisky or lost Taysom Hill or something, I could have maybe seen him, bringing him in, Trubisky on something like that. But I just don't know. Like, it's weird because teams are normally so starved for quarterbacks. But now we've got, it's almost been like musical chairs, and we've got some guys who are left without a seat. Like we don't know where Cam's going to go. We don't know where Jameis is going to go. We don't know where Dalton's going to go. And some of the analysts that I follow are like throwing in Joe Flacco.
He's done, folks. Come on. He was done 2 years ago.
He's either retiring or he's going to be a backup. Denver was just a really weird situation where they just needed somebody. But Yeah, and so you've got those guys already out there. The Colts, I'm sure, would love to unload Jacoby Brissett because he's owed like $15 million. So
I think they like Brissett. I don't know why you hate him so much, but I think they like him.
Well, they didn't like him well enough to make him keep him as the starter. I mean, he's a fairly, he's not young, but he's not old. He's like 27, and so I think they've seen like, okay, this is what we can get out of him. He's a good backup. He's a good backup, but they brought in 38-year-old Phillip Rivers.
It's not like they brought in like a superstar though, who's going to be the future of their dynasty.
No, but Jacoby, again, I can look it up. He's either, because when he came out of college, he was older. I think he's either like 27, maybe he's only 26. Let's see. But I mean, still, he's at an age where, yeah, he's 20. I was right. He's 27.
He's 27?
He's 27. Yeah. So it's not like, I mean, if he was, a 22, 23-year-old, maybe 24 quarterback, and you're like, okay, he's not quite ready. We need someone to come in and play ahead of him for a year. But the dude's 27 years old. If you don't have the confidence in him to make him your starter going forward, especially when it's not like you've got some lock of a Super Bowl roster around him. They have a good roster, but it's not like, oh, this is a championship team. We just need a quarterback. So, I mean, to me, that tells me that the Colts don't view him as a long-term solution either.
Which is weird because I feel like the Colts are in a super strange place because because to me, if they drafted a quarterback, this is like the sign to me they're getting younger, but they picked up Phillip Rivers, which doesn't make sense if the team's trying to get younger, but they're not trying to win now because they can't. I just don't get what the Colts are. I mean, you're a Colts fan, so you understand more than I do. But do you get what the Colts are doing? Because the only thing I see is if they still take a quarterback and do the whole Alex Smith Mahomes thing for a year.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
I kind of do, I think. I mean, I didn't love the Phillip Rivers move, but I didn't hate it either. The Colts are sort of in a weird place because their roster is good. But it's not necessarily, great right now, but it has a lot of young guys. And so it's kind of funny because the model for a lot of teams has been have a veteran roster, and then win with a young quarterback on a rookie deal who allows you to pay all those other guys. So like when the Seahawks won, they won because they had, all those star players on defense, and they were paying Russell Wilson peanuts. The Chiefs, won with Mahomes, where they're paying all these other guys money, but he's on a rookie deal. The Colts are almost kind of the reverse, where they've got all these young, talented players who have actually kind of become like talented veterans ahead of their time. So Quentin Nelson is an all-pro guard. Darius Leonard is a Pro Bowl. I think he made. I can't remember if he made all-pro or not. Linebacker. And so obviously those guys are the ones that make headlines. But they've got a lot of other good young players too. They don't have a lot of money tied up in them. The Colts had all this cap money, and so they could afford to pay Phillip Rivers $25 million on a 1-year deal. And so it really is one of these like rare reverse situations, as opposed to what the typical Super Bowl model's been the last several years in the NFL.
Okay.
Oh, and to your point about I think they can still draft a guy. Like they've got 2 second-round draft picks. They can still, and one's the second overall pick of the second round, and then I think theirs is the 13th. So they can still add another player, and then also if they want to, if a Jacob Eason's there, or maybe if somebody slips into the 20s in the second or first round, they can go up and try to get them. So they only signed Rivers to a 1-year deal. They've got an opportunity now to go get a young guy and let him learn for a year or whatever. So I get why it looks weird, because it is a weird situation, but I feel like it can work maybe.
Okay.
What is their pick in the draft? Sorry, I missed that.
They traded their first round pick, which was 13, to San Francisco to get DeForest Buckner, the defensive tackle.
Yeah.
And so they have Washington's pick in the second round, which is the second pick, and then they have their pick, which is I think still 13 or 14 in the second round. So they've got 2 high second round picks.
Mm-hmm. So what would you think of them taking Jake Fromm at that point? What would you think of that if they ended up taking him? Because he's the most likely quarterback to fall to one of those spots.
Yeah, I think like what the Ravens did last year was they jumped up to, I think it was the very last pick of the first round, or not last year, 2 years ago, to get Lamar Jackson. And teams have an incentive to do that because you get that extra year on the rookie deal. So I think there's actually probably a decent chance that if there was a guy that the Colts really liked there, but they just didn't, they didn't feel like he was a top half of the first round kind of guy, they could still trade up back into the first round and take him there. Fromm, I don't know. I liked Fromm. I like him okay. He and Eason are 2 different quarterbacks, and they're the most likely ones to be there. Either late first or early second. But I don't know. I mean, he's got limited upside. I think maybe if you're gonna do a dice roll and Eason's there, maybe Eason would be the better one to. Yeah, I mean, he could almost be like a Matthew Stafford type. He's similar, I think, in a lot of ways.
Which honestly is like, we're good. Which, I mean, I really wish Fromm had a more solid year 3, because I feel like if he did, that would have been, I think, would have been leagues of change, like so much.
Yeah, and I like Jake Fromm more than most people do, because I think like your average Twitter analyst, that's like Jake Fromm sucks, is looking at him saying, well, he didn't put up huge college numbers, but I mean, it's a completely different setup at Georgia. There's umpteen factors, and I mean, he could very easily be a Kirk Cousins or Andy Dalton. I think there's a good chance he turns out that way. So he's not exciting because he doesn't have that Patrick Mahomes upside of a Jordan Love. He doesn't have a Matthew Stafford type upside of somebody like Eason or something like that. So it's just hard not to want to crave that star quarterback with upside. So. Right. It's the mystery. It's like the mystery box, It's like you can have this thing which is pretty solid, or you can have the mystery box. There was a joke about that, about why Bill O'Brien gave up so little for DeAndre Hopkins. It was like the Cardinals said, okay, you can either have 3 first-round picks, or you can have a second-round pick and the mystery box. and he's like, ooh, mystery box. And then David Johnson was in the mystery box.
Oh my goodness. That's so wrong. Well, anyway, Math Quest is here to join us, and he's got our first question of the day. Good to see you. He says, this is a good one. This is probably the quarterback we've talked about the least, but he's also in the most confusing spot right now. So does Jameis Winston deserve to be a starter in the NFL? What is the best potential landing spot for him? The CFL.
No.
I'm kidding.
You guys.
Okay, Judah Buddha, you obviously have strong feelings about this. Take it away.
Jameis Winston definitely deserves to be a starter in the NFL. Look, he had a lot of picks last year. I realize that. But he also he threw a lot of touchdowns. And what some people aren't talking about is that he got LASIK surgery over, I don't know, a couple months ago. And I think that from reports are saying it's helping him tremendously. Like he might not have been able to see last year. So
that's crazy. Not to interrupt you, just to interject though. Isn't it crazy? Like if you were an NFL team, wouldn't you have your quarterback get his eyes checked every year?
You'd think.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry,
Yeah.
but I mean that just seems insane to me.
Well, it does, but I mean, we're human, you know? Like everybody always says, like the biggest argument against somebody playing their best against their old team is, well, shouldn't they be playing the best every day? Well, yeah, but there's so many factors, you know, that go into every day going to work. Like these people are going to work, you know?
But that's like a policy. That's like an organizational, like something that should be in place, I think. Like if your job, anyway.
Yeah. But all right, so he can see now way better. I think that will really help. And I
want to know what the difference was too. Do you know what the difference was in his vision?
No.
Because I mean, I'm not asking rhetorically. I don't know. I'm just curious, how much of an upgrade it was.
I have no idea, but if it helps at all, I mean, the difference between throwing a pick and throwing a touchdown a lot of times is like that much, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing just a little bit better could mean a huge difference. The guy is a great player. He just throws too many picks. He's a little too cowboy.
He's a great athlete. In terms of player, he's a very good player, but he's a glass cannon. He's very, very inconsistent.
I think you also have to look at we'll see now. Maybe we'll still see now. If he doesn't get a starting job anywhere, then we're not going to be able to see the difference. But the other thing too, though, with Jameis Winston is like decision making, and his life decisions. You can see
that is true.
A lot of it could be bad decisions on the field because he's made a lot of bad life decisions, and so it's hard to really. Sort of was his vision like 2030 and he just got it upgraded to 2020 because then that's probably not going to make that big of a difference. But if it was like 2050, but it's still like hard for me to have a whole lot of faith in him just because of we've seen like how bad some of his life decisions have been.
That's a good point.
But then the second part of the question is what's the best landing spot for him? And I'm just like reviewing the NFL right now, and the only available jobs left are the Chargers, the Patriots, and the Dolphins to me, because the Bengals are taking Burrow. We already know they're taking Burrow, pick one. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, where does he go? Because he's not going to New England. Belichick. He was not fitting Belichick's offense. I mean, Miami, LA, the Chargers. I mean, that's really the only place I can see him going right now. What about you guys?
Chargers already have a Jameis Winston. Ty God is going to be the man there.
Really, you think so?
They said so.
I know. I'm just wondering. They don't take someone in the draft. You really think they won't bring?
They'll draft somebody.
They'll draft somebody, but they're not going to go get another Ty God. Jameis is. I don't know. He plays similar. Although I think Tyrod.
Sorry,
somebody's got the COVID.
I don't know if sneezing is part of it. I don't think so. I think I just got something. I don't know, irritated my nose.
I think Tyrod runs a lot more. He's a lot more mobile than Jameis. Although Jameis doesn't get enough.
Used to be. I looked up his stats. His first year, he had 7 rushing touchdowns, and every other year after that, he's never had more than 1.
But he runs like he's a threat. But you're right. Tyrod is he's much more mobile. He's running all the time. He gets 20 at least 20 yards a game.
Yeah.
I would say, it sounds like I think the Chargers are going to draft somebody. I think they would be crazy not to. So I'm going to take them out of the equation on that. I would say probably the best fit for him would be maybe Washington.
Ooh, really?
Because I don't know that they're going to draft anybody at 2 with Dwayne Haskins. It's entirely possible that they could. You can't ever really predict what Washington's going to do. But if they don't draft someone, I mean, Dwayne Haskins just does not seem NFL ready. It seems like you would be just as well off to take a chance on Jameis Winston. But they just have so much uncertainty there at quarterback with Alex Smith, all these different things. So, there really isn't, if you just look through every single team, there's just not a great fit anywhere for him, I don't think.
Yep.
You know who hasn't come up a lot that I'm looking at right now? Pittsburgh Steelers. What's his name? Roethlisberger he is not for this league much longer. Many did not believe he was coming back this season. He's definitely coming back. But how much does he left in the tank? I think it might be a good place for Jameis to go play behind Roethlisberger.
Really?
That would freak Ben Roethlisberger out there.
You think so?
He nearly lost it when they drafted Mason Rudolph. Because I can't remember where. Let's see. I'm curious now, what pick they drafted.
I think it was 3rd round. I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right. Because and so that was just let's see, where was it? Okay. They used a 3rd round pick on Mason Rudolph. Wow. No big deal, right? Roethlisberger got upset. He openly and publicly criticized that move. I think that could have been, used on another position. Dude, it's a 3rd round pick. It's still relatively high in the grand scheme of things. But 1 3rd round pick is not going to make or break your Super Bowl hopes here. So it just showed how insecure he was when they used a 3rd round pick on a quarterback. If they brought in a guy and paid big money to a guy who has been a starter, who is a former number 1 overall pick, I think Roethlisberger would melt down.
Okay, you're right. But on the other hand, look what happened last year. They needed somebody better.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a good decision for the Steelers organization.
But you're right. Yeah.
I think it would be completely worth a shot for them if they have the money. But I think if you did that, you would have to cut Ben, because I think he would just turn into Antonio Brown here,
Oh my goodness.
Have you seen him lately? He's with the big beard.
Oh yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Oh, we're just waiting for him to fight Logan Paul now. So.
Oh no, he's talking about Ben.
I know. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of funny. I looked up
who's
the
fighting
injury
Logan
history.
Paul?
Antonio Brown is.
Well,
really?
They
reportedly.
Well, that was. I don't know if anything's changed lately, but Logan Paul was trying to get him to fight him forever, and he wouldn't do it. And we need to. Well, I don't know if we could play it on here without getting a copyright strike or something. But if you haven't seen Logan Paul's diss track of Antonio Brown, it is outstanding. It's not just good for a diss track. It's solid for a song. If the lyrics would be cheesy, but they put he sounds good. He put actual production value into this. He's got Antonio, or no, I'm sorry. Logan is at different points of the video wearing Tom Brady's jersey. He's wearing Juju's jersey. Yeah. And the lyrics, he absolutely destroys him.
Especially when you listen to Antonio Brown's song, which is the worst piece of music I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, as soon as we get off here, you need to actually, you know what? As soon as we stop live streaming, or maybe actually we just need to. Again, we would get a.
It's okay. It's not like we're gonna lose our. No, we can play it during it.
But
lose our funding. Let me see if I
we need to have it to where I guess there's not a way to do this. I would love to be able to have it on screen and watch your reactions at the same time.
Oh boy!
But
let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, it's just I mean, just just YouTube Logan Paul, Antonio Brown diss track.
Okay.
It's pretty great. It's pretty great. And like everyone has, like, even people who hate Logan Paul have been like, dude, this is outstanding.
Well, I was going to say, the only place you can come to hear Logan Paul lauded and praised is Roto Hackers?
No, everyone across the board, like everybody, people who hate the guy was like, respect, man. You know, this is really good. And I don't like Logan Paul. I'm not a Logan Paul fan or hater. But yeah, this was good.
While you're pulling that up, I got a question for you guys. Thanks, Math Quest, for sending in that one. While there's been a lot on quarterbacks, there have been three running back moves, really, but two huge ones. First was Gurley getting dropped by the Rams and then immediately getting picked up by Atlanta, which I am torn on this, but I'm curious on what you guys think. And Jared, you're in Georgia, so I want to get your thoughts on this.
Falcons fans are really hyped about this. I think this is going to be Steven Jackson 2.0.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Gurley last year, he wasn't outstanding. If you look at the Falcons' running game last year, it wasn't outstanding. So you put those two together, what's it? I mean, honestly, he's like, if the Falcons had a better line, he would be going to a much better situation in Atlanta, because unlike Jared Goff, you know, Matt Ryan can actually move the ball. So,
yeah.
But I just don't. It's just hard for me to imagine there being like a significant upgrade with him, all things considered. Maybe he gets like a 1-year bounce. You know, there was less work on him last year. Maybe the Falcons throw him in and he does really well. I could see a scenario where for 1 year, just like how we've kind of talked about some of these other guys, like a 1-year resurgence for Phillip Rivers. I could see a scenario like that for Gurley. I think it would be short-lived, but the main, even more so than his health, the main question I would have would be the Falcons' offensive line. Maybe that improves. Maybe they draft somebody. You know, they had it was their pick from last year. I think Caleb McGarry, I think is his name, who, you know, missed. I have to look this up to see how much time he missed. If I can find it. Okay, so because he had the didn't he have a heart condition? Okay, well, this is not.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about the Falcons running game with Todd Gurley.
Yeah, I know, but who's this McGarry person?
He's one of the Falcons offensive linemen. He was.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, it's not readily coming up, so I'm not positive. But I think
I think your comparison to Steven Jackson, is this, you said Steven Jackson?
Steven Jackson.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. And Steven Jackson, when he was the man, was actually a really good fantasy football option. He was like a sleeper fantasy football until they started RBB seeing him to death. He was really good, and I think the Gurley could even be better than Steven Jackson. I think he's younger and just more of a beast.
He is younger. It's not an apples to apples comparison, and I wouldn't really make it if not for Gurley's, you know, quote unquote arthritic knee.
Right.
But what happened with Steven Jackson though is the Rams, he was with the Rams. Of course, they were the St. Louis Rams at that time. He was with them for 5, 6, 7, 8,
12
9
years?
9.
9 years.
So 9 seasons,
Yeah.
2004 to 2012. Every year after his rookie year, he had at least 1,300 yards or so from scrimmage. And then the Falcons got him. But I mean, at that point, you know, you're looking at a 30-year-old running back. And so he played 2 years with the Falcons. and his total yards, not just rushing yards, total yards were 734 and 855. And, again,
But
Gurley,
that first year back, what were his stats like the first year back? Because I just remember him being
the first year back from injury, or the first year back, or the first year.
I'm first year on the Falcons.
First year, total of 12 games played and 734 total yards.
How many touchdowns?
7, I think.
That's pretty high.
Oh wait, plus the receiving
Seven
touchdown.
touchdowns. Seven. I mean,
seven touchdowns for
to go along
games?
with 700 yards, though. I mean, the touchdowns are, good. That saved some fantasy value, but you project that out over 4 more games, and that's maybe 9 touchdowns. So it's not the same situation. Gurley's younger, but he's also got a bad knee too. So I don't really trust it. It's because he played at Georgia. A lot of people are hyped up for his return to the state, but looking at it from a fantasy value pick, it depends on where he would go.
What round would you take him in?
I wouldn't feel safe, I don't think, before the 4th round.
I was going to say 4th round.
I was going to say 5th round, honestly, because typically one of those picks I'll use to get Kelsey or Kittle in 2nd round. So I'd probably say 5th round for me, honestly, because his knee scares me so much.
Yeah,
just so much. Like everything else, it's like stars aligning. He's back to Georgia. He's out of the Rams offense, and then he's got a bad knee. I think we'll have to see a lot of what happens if anything comes out during. Training camp's been canceled or whatever. If we hear anything on the offseason about his leg. And to your point, Jared, about the offensive line, I do think they'll be better, though, because you still have Alex Mack, Jake Matthews. You've got the 2 offensive linemen they drafted moving into year 2. So I think it'll definitely be better. So I don't know. The knee is like the one thing that's holding me back from saying this is a great pickup. I don't know.
Yeah, same. So then the other question becomes, what does the Rams running game look like? Do they turn it over? Do they turn it over to Henderson? Is it Malcolm Brown mostly? Is it a mix of those two? Do they get another guy?
They should have kept CJ Anderson.
I think Henderson could be a viable option. But he's obviously it's going to be some kind of committee.
Well, our resident Falcons expert, Thomas H., said he's happy to see Gurley coming back to Georgia. 1-year deals, low risk with high reward.
Yeah.
For real world purposes for the Falcons, it's fine. A 1 year, it's like the Colts with Rivers.
But how could it be any worse than with the Rams? And with the Rams, he was like easily round 2. Production.
Well,
I
don't know about round 2.
He was taken in round 2.
No. I'm just saying, like, what he ended up having great touchdowns.
Yeah,
he had like 2 touchdowns a game for a little stretch there. It was nice for people that had him.
Yeah. So he was touchdown, pretty touchdown dependent. So he had he totaled 857 rushing yards, and then I guess like 200 and something passing yards. So basically about 1,100 yards and 14 total TDs. Yeah. So if his knee holds up, and you can make. I still, I don't know how I would trust taking him still before
round 4.
Yeah, we'll have to see how the draft board shakes out. Maybe like late 3 or something, but I just don't think I could trust him in like a 2nd round or something like that.
Which is funny that we're talking about drafting and August is 5 months away.
but Yahoo's will open, I think, in like a month. I think it opens right. I think it opens right after the draft, or it did last year.
You don't understand the sickness, AJ. We like I know I do. I start drafting like so early, and with teams I never end up playing out.
Yeah.
Well, I played them out. Two of my best teams were ones that I drafted in like May of last year.
Really?
So yeah, two of my league winners. So I like to have a mix because you can draft early, and if your intuitions and projections and stuff are right, then you can get guys who may not be on the radar of a lot of fantasy players yet because the the quote unquote experts haven't talked them up that much yet. So if you see it earlier, so like Tyreek Hill in a league last year, I took him. That was after his. They were thinking he might get suspended for the year, or the Chiefs might cut him. In the very first league that I drafted him, I took him in the 9th round.
Wow!
And so nobody drafted him before the 9th round, and so that helped me. And keep in mind, this was also a team where I had Melvin Gordon. I drafted Melvin Gordon as my 1st round pick.
Okay.
I also had AJ Green as like my 4th round pick, and somebody else.
Wow.
And so that team was just wrecked by holdouts and injuries. But it was a league winner, and part of the reason it was a league winner is because getting Tyreek Hill in the 9th round.
Quick question. What happens if we just say, for example, I sign up for a $50 league, and then the NFL doesn't play?
I think they just if it doesn't play at all, they're going to have to just refund your money.
Yeah.
What's interesting, what Yahoo's having to figure out right now is basketball and baseball, and I guess maybe hockey too, because basketball, you went through a good chunk of your season. You went through like 80-90% of your season, but if you were in like 2nd or 3rd, like say you were playing basketball and playing roto, there are guys who burn through all of their games played earlier in the season and have a lead, and then like down the stretch I'm going to be able to overtake that guy. Well, there is no down the stretch, and so do they just end it where the final standings were?
They probably just give everybody their money back.
That's really what they should do. But then people are going to be upset, like, oh, I was in 1st place or whatever. So I don't know, but Yahoo sent out, because I did play a couple of like low money basketball leagues this year. I played like a $20 and a $50 league. And so they sent out like notices of like, we're like in the process of figuring this out. And I guess baseball, they'll just hold off for a while and see what happens with it. But basketball
is done. It's done.
They haven't canceled the season. They're still contingency plans for, maybe restarting in June, which would throw off the whole league calendar for the following year and stuff. So it really it creates this sort of crazy domino effect, but basketball right now, if you sign up for football and they don't have a season, you'll just get your money back. But basketball is kind of the interesting one right now.
Interesting.
So the other running back thing, what's your take on Melvin Gordon to the Broncos?
There it is. See, this actually makes a little bit more sense to me than it did other people I had talked to as soon as the trade happened, because Denver actually had a solid end to the year. Like, Drew Lock played well. He threw 7 touchdowns and 1,000 yards at the end of the season. And I don't know if that bodes great things for Denver, but at this point, from Denver's side, you've got now, for the most part, a solid starting running back. I mean, your wide receiving core, you might have to work on a little bit, but I mean, you've got a guy, Cortland Sutton, coming back. Defense is still solid. I think this is good for Denver as a team. And fantasy-wise, Phillip Lindsay's in big trouble. And I mean, he already was super inconsistent last year. I think Royce Freeman to this point is almost like non-existent now because he's running back 3 in the depth chart.
I would assume I would assume either he or Lindsay will get traded. I would assume one of them will get traded. You know,
They're gonna want to get out of
You
there.
could get something good. They could probably get something pretty good for Lindsey.
you would think so.
Yeah. It's just gonna be weird with. I mean, first off, seeing Melvin Gordon in a Broncos jersey is just gonna be whack. But then, I don't. I mean, it could be good. It could be good.
There's dispute to whether or not
offense.
there's dispute to whether or not he had a better offer from the Bills, which is interesting to me because I am of course, you guys know, a heavy supporter of Devin Singletary. But I don't know. There's dispute. Schefter said that no, he didn't have a better. He had never heard back from the Bills, and then other people were saying he had a better offer and didn't want to go somewhere cold or something. I can't remember.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, it's hard to move from Los Angeles to Buffalo for the winter.
Yeah.
Denver's not that much better.
Yeah, true.
I don't know about that. I don't know exactly what the weather in Buffalo is like, but Denver weather in the winter goes from like, I mean, it's always like cold, but it can go from, blizzard to snow melts off a couple days later, and you've got, like sunny weather where you can still get outside. It's not like a Northeast
Buffalo, you're encased in ice.
Yeah, Buffalo could get up to 5 feet of snow. So.
Right. Well, and I mean, Denver can get some blizzards too, but I've had, a couple different friends that, have lived there, and I haven't really been there in the winter. I've visited some in the, other seasons, but I would text somebody and they'd be like, oh no, that blizzard was 2 days ago and now it's sunny and it's all melted off and stuff. So Denver's not quite like, the Northeast or something. So.
It's kind of like here. I mean, AJ, we've had what, like,
this year was the most mild winter we've had in a long time. Like, I don't know.
Last year was pretty mild too.
Last year was last year we had snow in May.
That was the only snow we had.
It came late. It came like February to May. Last year we just got all our snow late in the year. Normally it's normally winter. We'll have that occasional 1 week stretch of it's 50, but yeah, no, it's perpetually cold in Chicago.
Another question, I think if we've I guess kind of gotten through the Melvin Gordon thing, which I don't know that I really have anything to.
What's their offensive line like there? I'm trying to remember.
I was trying to remember that too, and I don't know.
It's decent. It's decent. Yeah? I'd say it's like mid-tier.
Because he needs a good offensive line. He really does.
He's not efficient, like he's not. Like he's not a terribly efficient running back. So if
what do you mean by that?
I mean in terms of like needing attempts, like yards per carry. If he's not getting
right, he doesn't have huge yards per carry.
Yeah, if he's not getting touches, if he's not, if he's limited to like 12, 13, sub 15 touches, that's kind of scary. It depends on
if Lindsey's still there. He's not an option for him.
He's not going to get that. Yeah, so I would be leery of drafting him.
Yeah.
On another note, so one other thing I saw from, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, the Steelers signed Eric Ebron, the tight end from the Colts, who he's really only had one big year
in North Carolina. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, he had the big year 2 years ago, his first year with the Colts, and then last year it just petered out to nothing. Andrew Luck was gone. But with him, I'm not even really as much concerned about him as it kind of reminded me of Juju, and like where do you draft? Where's your initial inclination to draft Juju this year?
I'm drafting him high.
How high?
Second round.
Ooh. Okay.
I mean, he's back with Roethlisberger. I think every inclination we had about him going into last season, we should have again. Just because we got burnt by a situation, like I think a lot of people are going to be off him. And this is a great arbitrage opportunity. He's going to have, good pass catchers around him, and Roethlisberger's back.
But you also make the argument that like Roethlisberger can't really be trusted because he's old and injury prone.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, who would we have behind Roethlisberger? Do they still have old
Still
Doug
old
Hodges.
reliables,
Old
Mason
reliables.
Rudolph and Chuck Hodges. They're right there. They're right there.
I thought they dropped Rudolph.
Not that
think so.
I've heard. I can double check, but no, they're right there still. If you need 87 passing yards and 2 INTs, they are ready at a moment's notice to come in and give you that.
Nope, he's still there.
He's
He is
still there, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, it's a good point. If they get Jameis. Yeah,
that could be. Oh my goodness, that could be the saving grace or the death of Pittsburgh.
It would be. It would be glorious for fantasy production. Like, I'm curious now to see, like, watch Mike Evans and Chris Godwin's numbers just drop in half because they no longer are playing from behind because they have to keep up from those 30 Jameis INTs.
Yeah, I am quite worried about their numbers, especially Evans.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, say what you will about the intelligence and brilliance of Brady. He's just not a down the field passer.
Especially
he probably
not
even still has the arm, but he's old.
Yeah, especially not now. Like I would be worried about Evans too. Like, you know, Godwin really was taking over a lot of those games with throws underneath and stuff, which is not as much what Mike Evans does. Mm-hmm. And so I think I would worry less about Godwin than I would about Evans. Evans would scare me.
But what's the guy? Who was the number 3 that showed up again? Was it Brashad Perryman, right? He showed up kind of at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone now knows he could do stuff, and you've got Brady.
Mm-hmm.
It could work.
Yeah.
What do you mean it could work? I don't know. I think having Perryman splits up even more.
Yeah.
I think it helps Evans in terms of injury, though. He's still going to be running 90 yards downfield every time. But at the same time, I mean, he'll be okay. I think he'll be okay with Perryman in there. I think he's a good third option, I think in comparison to a lot of other quote-unquote wide receiving core out there. I mean,
Perryman would be the third option, you're saying?
Perryman's the third option to me, yeah.
Yeah, okay. It'd be interesting to see what Brady does with his tight ends.
Yeah, that's a good question too. OJ Howard, if it makes a difference for him.
I mean, everybody's thinking OJ Howard is, you know, he's built like Gronk. He's a big guy, you know, he's powerful. I don't know.
You know, the thing that really interests me is that I had heard a lot last year about how good how good the Bucs defense was, and Shaq Barrett came out with 150 tackles and everything. And then I went back and looked at the games, and I'm like, they let up 15 points to the Browns and then 50 to the Saints because Jameis threw 30 picks every game, and the defense kept having to go back on the field over and over again.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking, you get Brady, who in 4 seasons threw 29 interceptions.
Yeah. I'm giving a hard look to the Buccaneer defense as far as picking that. I think, you know, that's a smart arbitrage play there, because everybody's gonna be thinking the Buccaneer defense, what they do last year, cleaned up the mess every game.
They might actually do okay now that they don't have to run back onto the field when Jameis takes that, you know, first snap of the offensive possession and throws an INT, and they're like,
that last game they didn't even get a chance to take off their helmets.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that just goes to show. And who's going to be? Well, I don't know if we're going to have a. I started to ask, like, what's going to be the overrated, everybody takes them too high defense this year, but people had already kind of, like, by the end.
Patriots, though, I think Patriots will probably be in there.
Maybe, but by the end of the season, like, people were,
that's true,
like, dropping them in a couple of leagues and stuff like that. I picked them up for the playoffs because their playoff matchups were good, but I don't know. I don't know if we're going to have as much of a, like, one that people pick in the 7th round because they think they're going to, get the star defense there.
Who off the top of your head, who would you take
Ravens.
Ravens.
Yeah, I think the Ravens
got better this offseason.
Yeah, I mean they're always reliable.
Yeah.
Like they may not be a top 5 defense, but they're always kind of in that, like, if nothing else, like 6 to 10 range. So yeah, they're always reliable. And they added Calais Campbell for a 5th round pick
for pennies. They gave up pennies and dimes to the Jaguars for him.
Right, and you know their offense is not going to change. Their offense is still going to be like run the ball. Ball control that gives that defense an opportunity to rest up. So I think Ravens off the top of my head would still have to be, the number one. Something else I just saw, like I was browsing Twitter to see if there were any, signings this morning that we hadn't seen or whatever. And Adam Schefter retweeted something that I hadn't even seen or noticed, but this will make Thomas H happy. The Falcons offense has 10 former first round picks who are projected to be starters for 2020. Not their team, their offense. 10 of the 11 guys on offense are it's Matt Ryan, Todd Gurley, Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst, who I had forgotten was a first round pick, Jake Matthews, James Carpenter, who I guess is a guard that I didn't realize he was a first round pick. Alex Mack, their right guard, then Chris Lindstrom, and then their right tackle, Caleb McGarry. So essentially, the only one who will not be a first round pick would be their fullback or third wide receiver, or a second tight end. Or a second tight end, depending on what.
It was Ridley. Ridley wasn't the first round.
Ridley was the first round pick.
He was the first round pick. Yeah.
They could possibly be like the bounce back team of the year.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You look at the NFC South will be interesting because Carolina's not going to be good.
Who's their quarterback?
You don't
Carolina?
think so? Bridgewater.
Who's going to be
Bridgewater? But I mean, look, they have they lost Luke Kuechly. Again, Bridgewater to me is like,
he's like dirty water. Like, I'll drink it, but like, I'm not enjoying it.
That wasn't going to be the comparison I made. I wasn't thinking of dirty water, but maybe like vitamin water or something.
Vitamin water is a better way.
It's got like a little bit of taste to it.
Yeah,
but,
it's perfectly fine.
It's the job done.
I know it is like unsweetened tea. That's what I'm thinking. It's like unsweetened tea. You're like, all right,
it's fine.
It's
right. So yeah, but I mean, you look at in that division, out of those 4 teams, like it would be tough for Carolina, I think, in a lot of divisions, but. Yeah, new quarterback who's just ho-hum. They lost Luke Kuechly on defense, which they've got a high pick. If they don't use it on a quarterback, they could bring in somebody like Isaiah. Is it Isaiah Clemens, I think? And so, but their run defense was so bad. They lost Gerald McCoy. He went to the Bucs, and that was off of an already atrocious run defense. So I think they're the bottom of that.
The more we talk about it,
the Cowboys. He started with the Bucs.
The more we talk about it, the more you guys are convincing me that Gurley is going to be pretty good.
Maybe so.
I mean, he's going to play. He's going to play the Carolina. He's going to play them twice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
that's 4 touchdowns right there.
That partially depends. Like, hey, if the Falcons get Carolina in like week 15 or 16, I might sign up for that Todd Gurley, and then try to have a handcuff or something. But playoff matchups make a huge difference for me. So I might do that. But so I think Carolina's that bottom team because you've got the Saints. The Saints are still going to be good. The Falcons, my goodness, if the Falcons are not good, I mean, they have no excuse. And then you have the Bucs, who've now added Tom Brady to
his quarterback,
to a team that was, had great receivers. They probably need to add a running back, but otherwise they're pretty solid overall. So, how's Carolina not the bottom team in that division?
Is who is their tight end again?
For who's For who?
For Carolina.
No, Greg Olson's gone.
He's out, right?
Yeah.
Thinking Seattle, who has 5 million tight ends now.
He went to Seattle.
Yes,
That's something else that I was thinking about bringing up.
I've been waiting to use this banner.
Oh, you've got that ready to go. Well, I was actually going to bring up that too, because I was thinking, like, I was so disappointed when he went there because, you know, we had potential before with Will Dissly and Hollister, and then now that just makes that whole situation a giant mess.
It's almost like Seattle wants to screw with fantasy players. You know? They're like, we want to be really good, but not so good that fantasy players know what we're doing.
Or it's like that one guy in fantasy leagues who just takes like all of the players of one position and they just have a horde by the end of the season, so people have to trade with them. They're just keeping all the tight ends away from everybody else. They are the last team that needed a tight end, and then they went and got another one.
It just as fantasy players can't decipher what's going on over there, I guess their opponents can't either. So, you know, it's not a terrible real life strategy.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I can't imagine he does anything over there.
I would not touch.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, look at, like, you know, when they got Jimmy Graham, you know, Jimmy Graham would have
the Bears now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that happened.
But when they got Jimmy Graham, like,
yeah, I mean, just, you know, he fell off from where he was in New Orleans. You know, I mean, he's never been the same out of New Orleans.
Of course, Jimmy Graham had a patellar injury, which,
right.
You know,
but Greg Olson is,
that's true.
Constant injuries and his back is all messed up. Mm-hmm. Like he's one of those guys that, like, he really should just retire, you know.
Yeah.
But so
why don't they? What? Because he is somebody who would fit. He would be great as, like, a, you know, color commentator or something. You know what? I
think it's just some of those guys love it. You know, some of those guys love it that much. Like, you know, Jason Witten, he's back again. He's, you know, retired
in Las
Vegas, and which, I mean, his is the funniest scenario because he's the only one who was so bad at broadcasting that he had to go back and play football, you know. But
Aaron Rodgers just pulled a rabbit out of his head.
That was the best one.
He was so bad. It was just like, how did he get hired? I mean, he must have had, like, the producer must have been, like, best friends with him or something, because otherwise, like, how do you beat out other people? Or maybe it's even funnier to imagine that he was just like Tony Romo in the auditions, but then, like, he gets on live camera and then just, like, turns into an idiot. Yeah, freezes up. So I don't know, but I mean, you know, guys just love it sometimes. Like, why is Tim Tebow still trying to play minor league baseball? You know, he just loves that.
Decent.
Well, pretty good.
His stats are decent.
For minors, but I mean, the man is what now, like 31, 32?
Something like that.
And, you know, and so there's so many other things that he could make far more money at and have far more, like, presence at, but he just loves, I think, that team atmosphere and spirit of competition.
Well, and it's what he knows. I mean, for any of us, like, I'm thinking about making a big, I just made a big career change, and I'm thinking about we might be moving to North Carolina. Like, the idea of, like, having to restart is scary for anybody, you know?
Yeah.
And especially when you see Witten do it and he failed, like, it's like, oh, that could be me, you know? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's like, if you're making money and you're doing well at it well enough, do it till you get I don't know, until you get kicked out, you know?
Well, plus it's hard to transition from one thing to another, you know. I mean, there's only there's only so many, like, broadcast spots, and you know, and in a way you think, like, well, there's only so many tight end spots. Yeah, but there's only so many guys that can do that. And you take at your position that can do that, and then you take the broadcast spots are then trying to be occupied by you and every other, you know, third retired player. from every other position. So, so I think there's just, and you think about that with us, like if you try to go from one industry to another, like that's a hard move. Like everything is very specialized. Everything's very specialized. And so a lot of
lingo, everything changes.
It does. And so jobs, there's been times job hunting before where it's something in such and such industry and they want you to have, like, if you don't have past experience specifically with like, writing medical journals in Korean, then you don't even apply for that job. So I think that's part of it too.
All right. Well, looks like we've run out of things to talk about.
Got any other questions, or is that it?
One of the things I just thought was really weird going in was that I remember last year there was so much talk about Odell wanting to get out of Cleveland, and we've heard nothing about it.
That's true.
So far. Like all these trades are going on. Hopkins trade, it's not even allowed on Madden at all. It's been tested.
He wanted to get away from
wants out.
He wanted to get away from Hitchens, and Hitchens is gone. So maybe that's like the biggest thing.
Maybe it just feels weird that Odell for half of the year was like, I'm out of Cleveland. And immediately after the season ended, we knew he wanted out of Cleveland, and then nothing. Mm-hmm. It's just deadpan silence. With all these moves going around, it's hard for me to believe he's still in Cleveland.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to say what that's about. If that's like the Browns just being stubborn and not wanting to trade him, or now they think like, oh, okay, we've got a different coach. Maybe this can work. I haven't even really tried to parse that out. I have thought about that. You're right. But I haven't really tried to like parse that out in my head, because you're talking about like two dysfunctional storms colliding together, Odell Beckham and the Browns. So who knows like what could have changed in that situation.
Yeah. Also, something I just noticed that I just found funny. We all know that Carr's probably going to go somewhere.
Wait, what?
We all know Carr might go somewhere if they're sticking with Mariota. I still don't understand what the motive is over there with bringing him in.
That's what I thought originally, but I thought you were saying he was going to be the backup.
I don't think.
I don't know what's going on.
I don't think Mariota starts over Carr. I don't think so.
It's so weird though, because you bring him in, and it makes me think you bring him in as competition, because in my eyes, Carr's better in almost every aspect to me. He's less injury prone, he's more consistent, and he's got a better throwing arm. Like, to me, Carr is just the obvious choice. And then I realize the Raiders also have Nate Peterman and Deshaun Kaiser, to which I'm like,
get rid of somebody.
Point. Yeah, why?
Yeah, that's random. But I mean, either of those guys or both of them could easily be, cut. So. I don't know what the Raiders' plan is there. They did better than I thought they would last year. If they hadn't collapsed against Jacksonville, things could have been even more different. But it's still like, I think there's a possibility that they draft somebody, and then maybe they try to trade Carr or something like that, and then have Mariota like as a guy that they plug in for 2 games or something, or if it's somebody that's more developmental like a Jordan Love, then maybe Mariota plays 2/3 of the season or something. But I think they've got some options there, and we may not really know what that's going to look like until after the draft. But if they don't use a high pick on somebody, then I think they go with Carr. I mean, Mariota's not a better option to me.
Yeah, same here.
I don't know. I can't tell if Carr is terrible or really good. I don't think he's mediocre. I think he is either.
You don't
terrible.
think he's mediocre?
No, I think he's either terrible or really good. Like his first season, he was terrible. His second season is really good. Then last season went back to terrible. So I don't know. Or no, the season before last he was very terrible. But he had a back injury. So I don't know.
But doesn't that just kind of like tell you that it's kind of dependent on his circumstances then?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it does sort of say that. But I don't know what are his circumstances going? Are they going to change for next year?
Well, Jacobs is moving on to year 2, and we already know how good he was off his rookie season. So
yeah, and he had a broken back all last year. So what is it with those guys and broken backs, man?
I mean, you're getting hit from behind at times, and it's not like you've got like a lot of padding around your spine. Like, you know, you can like reach back there and feel your spine. So my spine would probably get like, it'd be like a Mortal Kombat fatality for the first hit. Like someone wouldn't even be trying to like rip my spine out, but they would actually do it. But I think Carr needs, you know, where they pick is, I think it's 12 because they were right ahead of where the Colts were. They really kind of need a wide receiver. You know, they would probably be best suited going for somebody like CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy if they're there. But, you know, they're also moving to a new city and opening a new stadium, and I could see them wanting to have an exciting young quarterback to plug in there. So I would be surprised.
They're not gonna draft a 5th quarterback.
Yeah.
But no. What I'm saying is, like, those other 2 guys you mentioned, those guys are easily just releasable, and then you can trade Carr. So maybe you keep one of those guys. You could keep, you know, teams will have 3 quarterbacks, so you could have Mariota as the bridge to the guy they draft, and keep one of the others, and then you drop one of those other 2 and trade Carr. That's 2 moves. The Carr thing might be a little tricky. They would have to make sure that there's a trade partner out there for him on that. Otherwise, it makes no sense to sign Mariota. But still,
yeah, it's crazy that there's like such a glut of quarterbacks, man.
Yeah,
like, there's so many viable. Who would even trade for a quarterback right now? Just pick him off the waiver wire.
Well, and what's funny is in the past it seems like we went for years and years and years where you had like 4 maybe 4 elite quarterbacks and a handful, maybe half a dozen other mediocre ones or like pretty good above average ones. And then they were all just like, it was all just like who, you know, it's all the same. Like pick your poison here. Now it's like you've got a couple of elite quarterbacks, and then almost everyone else is just like who's really better here, you know? I mean, like the rumor was that that Tom Brady wanted to go to San Francisco. You know, he was a 49ers fan growing up and all that, and he approached them, and they're just like, nah, we'll stick with Jimmy G, you know? And so, I mean, that tells you like the state of things where, you know, Peyton Manning's retired, Andrew Luck's retired, you know, Drew Brees and Tom Brady, guys like that have gotten older. Aaron Rodgers has gotten older. He's dropped off. And so now you've got like Mahomes, and then, you know, Lamar Jackson, who's a completely different type of quarterback. And then you got like a guy like Deshaun Watson, who's, if, you know, maybe he's in that conversation too, but then everybody else is just like, gosh, it's just all like, this guy's okay, you know? So it really is like a weird situation. I don't mind that to a certain extent, but I wish we would get back to having some really like elite guys that you just tuned in to watch. Like used to, I would tune in, like if Aaron Rodgers was on Monday Night Football, it's like, oh yeah, I'm excited to see that. I hope it comes down to them having the ball at the 50-yard line, him needing to throw a Hail Mary to win the game. Or Peyton Manning, you know, like, oh, give Peyton Manning the ball with, you know, 2 minutes left and down 5-6. So I really miss that. It's better for the parity of the league, but I wish we would, you know, kind of get back to having some more elite guys maybe.
This is going to be an interesting NFL year, to say the least, though.
If there is one.
Very good. Yeah, fair enough. But if it happens, it's going to be really weird.
Yeah.
It's going to be a season for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, it's super exciting. But if there is one, I mean, the thought. All right, so the thought of us, we're starting back, we're podcasting, and we do all this analysis, we do all this talking, and then they don't have a season.
Well,
like, how empty would that feel?
Well, it would feel empty for me if it came abruptly. But like this is helpful for me right now because I'm just like sitting at home and like I go to the grocery store and like all bread and all beef and all gone, all toilet paper gone, all these things are gone. And so it's just like I just need, even if there is no season, like I just need something to distract from the fact that we're like all stuck in that. Well, I was gonna make a Waco reference there that a lot of people probably, like anybody who's AJ's age or younger probably wouldn't get. But it's like we're like all in the Branch Davidian compound in Waco that's just like it's all burning down and we can't, we're just stuck and can't leave. So I don't know. Maybe it won't get quite that bad, but
I'm just still mad my XFL fantasy season got canceled.
XFL thing, I was gonna say it's like it reminds me of like it's like a relationship that like was short term years and years ago, and then you run into each other and you're like, oh, hey, maybe let's get back together and try this again.
It's a completely changed person too.
And then like just for whatever reason, it just like it's just not meant to be. It just like bombs out again. So yeah, XFL, I don't know. XFL is just maybe not meant to be.
Man, that was sad.
All right, guys. Well, do we want to watch the video? It's got a little swearing in it.
Yeah, it does have.
Huh?
It's got more than a little bit.
It's got more than a little bit. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Do we have a lot of children tuning in, or?
We have a lot of not children, but high schoolers.
I don't know. My brother might be.
Yeah. Well, I'll watch it when we get off.
Okay.
If we finish, I actually got one question for us to finish off.
Sure.
If you guys don't mind. All right. Biggest winner and loser of free agency, week 1. It can be a player, it can be a team, whatever you want.
I need a second on that one. Do you have somebody in mind?
I do. If Les Judabuta's got something and wants to go first.
I think quietly the Browns are rebuilding or continue to build a pretty dynamic team. I mean, they haven't, like you said, they haven't lost anybody. There's no word of anybody, leaving. So they got,
and they got Jack Conklin.
Jack Conklin, and I don't know who that is.
Really good offensive lineman. Very
okay.
good.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah, rebuilding their offensive line, rebuilding their defense. I mean, I think like, how everybody thought they were going to be the second coming last year. This year, people might be totally off them, and they actually do good. I'm not saying they're going to be the second coming, but all the kinks are getting worked out.
And biggest loser.
I think, I'm worried about the Chargers. What kind of team are they going to be? Like, this might be a rebuilding year. They might be the bottom of the rung this year of their division. What do you guys got?
You want me to go? You want to save yours best for last, or
I don't know if it's best, but you can go ahead if you want.
Okay, so I'm gonna give two winners here. I'm gonna cheat a little bit, and then one loser. I'm gonna say the two winners would be Baltimore. Getting Calais Campbell that cheap, and then trading Hayden Hurst to the Falcons for a second round pick. When you've got Mark Andrews and Nick Boyle still, you had 3 really good tight ends. You can afford to lose that guy, and to get him for a second round pick is pretty good. So you're adding that to a team that was already really good last year. That was, if they hadn't slipped up, could have won a championship. So I think Baltimore's in a really good position. The other one would be, I don't know how it's going to play out on the field, but just in the short term, like, when was the last time that Tampa Bay was relevant and that
Yeah,
people were
you're
talking
right.
about Tampa Bay Buccaneers,
Yeah.
And so signing Tom Brady gives them, at least on paper and at least until the season actually starts, credibility, So, so I think that's a win for them to get him. And, worst case, he's not going to be worse than what Jameis was last year, throwing them out of games, So those are my two winners. My loser, actually, I think would be the Rams. 2 years ago, we thought the Rams, Rams are on the rise. Jared Goff's on the rise. They were in the Super Bowl. They have just like an all-star roster. And then last year they fell back to earth, 9-7. They lost Dante Fowler and Todd Gurley to the Falcons. And both of them. Yeah. And so already that roster is starting to fall apart. So, the Rams, they kind of had that one shot and missed it. And, with all the money that they have now tied up in Gurley and some of these other guys, I think they're just going to be a very mediocre to sub-mediocre team for, a while to come. You look at Seattle is going to stay competitive in that division. The Cardinals are on the rise. San Francisco is the team that was in the Super Bowl last year. So the Rams are not by any means anywhere near the worst team in the league, but because of their situation between the division and the money that they have tied up, I think they are just going to be mired in mediocrity for years to come.
Wow. Okay. Oh boy! You actually stole the Ravens from me.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Oh my goodness. Okay. So mine. Oh my goodness. Okay. Winners. First off, Cardinals getting away with highway robbery and getting DeAndre Hopkins, which I think is going to make them so much better. And if they pick up offensive line in the draft, I think the Cardinals could surprise us all. And to Jared's point saying about the Rams, I think the Rams are going to be the weakest team in that division by far.
I don't know.
Like by far, because Cardinals, nobody watched them last year because they weren't on, but Kyler Murray was good last year. Yeah. Second off, Seahawks are back. Seahawks are getting better. Seahawks are moving on. And then third, you've still got Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers keeping the bulk of their team. And Gurley's gone and Fowler's gone, and we don't know what the Rams are doing. So I think the Cardinals are a big winner. And then also the Broncos. They got Melvin Gordon. They got AJ Boye for a 4th-round pick, which is going to help their defense a lot. And I like the Broncos. I think the Broncos could be a sleeper team and could surprise everyone.
I agree.
Yeah,
Lock. Yeah. So you guys looking at Lock?
Drew Lock.
It all depends on him, and we don't have much of a sample size from him. But they've got a good running back. Again, I don't remember their line, so I'm kind of trusting what AJ said on that. But Cortland Sutton is a good up and coming young receiver. Noah Fant, the tight end, really good up and coming receiving tight end. The defense will be solid. So I 100% agree. I think the Broncos could be a sleeper team depending on what Locke does.
Yeah, I think the only caveat to all of that is they have to play Patrick Mahomes twice a year. But take 2 losses, move on.
Yeah, but the other 2 teams in that division, the Chargers. We don't know what the Chargers are doing at quarterback. The Raiders, we don't know for sure what they're doing at quarterback, and that they improved, but it's not like they're a juggernaut right now. So they've got one team. They're probably not going to win the division unless Mahomes got hurt or something. But it's not like some of these other leagues where you've got potentially 3 teams that are better than you. Yeah. So all things considered, to just have the Chiefs, you can still get a wild card.
Yeah.
And the Chiefs, I mean, we saw last year, they are they're not invulnerable. They have some problems, particularly in their defense and their running back game. So we'll see what they look like next year. But you know how it is with teams that win big games in any sport. The next year is sort of a letdown. Although football tends to be a little less like that. You can continue to maintain consistency depending on, and they haven't made very many big moves, so they might be at the top again.
Yeah.
But they weren't juggernauts last year.
Part of that
they won the Super Bowl, but their season was not.
Well, remember, Mahomes was out for a couple of those games. Matt Moore came in, and then Mahomes had to get his hand back to 100 as well. So that was
But they won all those games, didn't they?
I think they lost one with Matt Moore.
One?
I think they won the other one though. Yeah, I think they won.
Well, plus we have, the stat of, and I don't remember what the stat is, and I'm too lazy to look it up right now, but the stat of teams that win the Super Bowl the previous year, it's only, it's only like, I forget what the percentage of them it is that even makes the playoffs, but even that's not great. Now, again, with the Chiefs and having Mahomes, it's hard to imagine that.
Yeah.
But it's you get a tougher schedule. You get guys that have gotten a little bit comfortable winning, the year before. So, I think you gotta have to take that into consideration too.
Mm-hmm. And oh my goodness, I know I talked about this a little bit at the end of last episode, but I think my biggest loser for this is, you guys ever heard of the phrase "trust the process"?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yes, I think the Colts might actually use that one a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, so the 76ers at least revolutionized the process of something called tanking.
Yes, they did.
And the Jaguars are doing a terrible job.
Of tanking?
Yes. They traded away two of their best defensive players in A.J. Boye and Calais Campbell for peanuts! Yeah. They got a 4th-round pick and a 5th-round pick for them. And this is the league where
I think though that NFL coaches and administration, they value 3rd and 4th picks a lot more than we do as fantasy analysts.
True.
I mean, if you see all the 4th and 5th picks that are playing now as superstars.
But that's still a high risk, though. That's still a much higher risk.
Not more than first. Look at how many first rounders are doing nothing.
Well, and I think I saw a stat that said that from that 2016, I think it was 2016 AFC Championship game. Yeah, I don't remember if it's 2016 or 2017. Maybe it's just 2017. The entire shutdown secondary, of the Jaguars is gone now, in 3 years, like Jalen Ramsey and all those guys. Yeah. So it's the it's the whole not for long sort of thing there. But
and the funny thing is they gave away their defense to teams that needed that it's like they didn't need, the Ravens didn't need to get better, but sure, we'll just go give up a 5th-round pick for Calais Campbell and get even better.
It's true. If the Ravens really did do well with that. If anybody doesn't need a 5th-round pick, it's them.
My mistake. It was 2018 that the Patriots and Jaguars played. So that's just been two years. 2 years, and that whole secondary that was so good, is gone. Yeah,
Saxonville is no more.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I gotta roll.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of The Road. This is a good... See, last time we were just getting back into the flow of being on podcast.
What are you talking about? None of us made any mistakes.
This time it was flawless. We talked about a good upcoming young player, Manny Stewart. So I mean, people look, where else? I guarantee you, there's not another podcast out there that's going to be on Manny Stewart the way that we were.
I'm going to make a Manny Stewart t-shirt.
He is a sleeper.
No, you need a Manny Stewart jersey. Go blow $100 and something on to get a Manny Stewart Packers jersey.
Yes. Oh man, that would be awesome.
You would confuse, and then you have to wear it as much as possible just to confuse people.
And people ask who he is. He's number 53, and you're like, he's a running back. He's a premier
guys
out of Fresno State.
You watch, he's going places.
Oh,
Right.
It kind of reminds me of when the draft did a couple years back, like those commercials where Deion Sanders came out of retirement was Leon Sandcastle. It kind of reminded me of those. Did you guys see those at all?
Oh yeah.
Vaguely remember that.
It
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of that. Yeah.
They did that with like Obama, like
What?
like during the election they're like, oh, we have a new candidate that's stepping in. His
I
name
missed
is
that.
his name is like he'd have like a mustache on,
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I don't remember that either.
All right. Well,
as a meme.
everyone, the NFL marches on. So do we. It looks like Judah Buddha's got something to say.
Yeah, now this is just business related. I don't know if we have to be on live for this, but place to communicate. It would be a place to invite our fans. Discord is like, the thing is about Discord is I'm going to be using it a lot more. Like, this is a great time for gaming and stuff like that. It's a lightweight communication system, but also I think I have found a way to embed it onto our website so people can see sort of our conversation and stuff like that.
Nice.
So I'm going to send you guys a link again to join.
Cool.
And hopefully and then we'll post it next week if people want to join our conversation.
Yes, definitely.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Become the next Roto Hackers, everyone.
Yes, join the Roto Hackers. All right, that's all I have.
All right. Well, anyway, Jared, unless you got anything else.
I've used it all up.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for tuning in to another great episode of the Roto Hackers podcast. Are we doing this Tuesday?
Yeah, why not?
Are we regular again?
I mean,
I will not be anywhere else. I mean, I'm going to be at home. There's nothing else. You guys,
Yeah.
you're both going to be under like shelter rules,
Yeah.
right? So I mean,
shelter
why
in
not?
Bunker.
shelter and chill. That's us.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
done with
sure. Even we can talk about if we run out of football stuff, we can talk about something else. But
There we go.
yeah, I need some help maintaining sanity here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Judas is
mean-
gone.
I never had any, so
That was never the goal. We all have different goals for this thing here, So that
I
was
never told you
never-
the legend of Sterling Shepard. It all started there.
or Manny Stewart. All right, dudes. I will see you on the other side.
All right, everyone, have a great day. We'll see you next time on Tuesday on the Road Hackers podcast because we're back. And have a great day. Have a great day. Manny Stewart is the #1 draft pick.